This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Bill Belichick needs 15 more wins, combining the regular season and the playoffs, to pass Don Shula as the winningest NFL coach. Those wins will not come with the Patriots. Belichick and the team agreeing to part ways. Belichick got the lion's share of those wins with Tom Brady as his quarterback.
I think it's always such a stupid conversation to say Brady versus Belichick, because in my mind, that's not what partnerships are about. Coach couldn't play quarterback and I couldn't coach. The best part about football is, and the coach says it a lot, do your job. And he asked me to play quarterback. He didn't ask me to coach.
Tom Brady on the Let's Go podcast. If Belichick coaches another team as he hopes, next season will be his 50th straight NFL season, extending his league record. The Bears, Jaguars, Panthers, and Vikings will each host a game in Europe next season. The matchups and dates to be announced later. There'll also be a game in Brazil. The teams in that game also to be announced later. Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers says he'll stay with the Longhorns for his senior season. He threw 22 touchdown passes this season.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Cannon. Coming up Friday, I'll tell you if it's fair or foul to question the future of the Chiefs dynasty. It's unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Here from Rouse's on Florida Boulevard, the new Rouse's. Ribbon cutting earlier today at 8 a.m., and it has been packed all day. It is not every day that you pull into the parking lot at a grocery store, and there is nowhere to park, but that was the case earlier when we got here at Rouse's on Florida. You can't miss it. So if you're in the Baton Rouge area, North Baton Rouge area, come on by, check out the newest Rouse's, a pristine spot here for this community in North Baton Rouge. All right, we're glad to have you aboard with us and a ton to do. Yesterday, while we were on air, as you know, the news broke that Nick Saban was retiring. I acted like an ass for 8 minutes and as a result have no voice. Don't regret it at all. Would do it all over again, and if I could multiply it by 1,000,000, still would. Unapologetically. Sue me. Not mad at all. But we'll make it through the day with my voice, and I deserve it. I deserve it. Bo's listening on headphones. He knows it sounds ridiculous. And we're 3 minutes in. Only 2 hours and 57 to go. Should have just loaded up with guests today. We got some of them. We're going to head to Tuscaloosa at the bottom of this hour. We'll talk to our buddy Mark Heim from AL.com. The big swagoo, Marcus Spears, will be here next hour. Played for Nick at LSU. Of course, has followed his career, certainly during his work in the SEC Network at Alabama. And then in hour 3, we will get to our Saints season recap with our buddy Mike Triplett. So we're looking forward to that and glad to have you aboard with us here on this Thursday edition of AFR. We have so much to get to over the course of the day. And I want to start by advancing the story with Nick Saban. It was, of course, Chris Lowe who broke the news that Nick Saban was retiring. And Nick Saban has given an interview as well, speaking to Reese Davis earlier today. And Nick said he does not have any serious health problems, but he did answer the question why this is the right time to retire. Here's what Nick Saban said.
No, I don't think there's any good time, but I actually thought that in hiring coaches, recruiting players, that my age started to become a little bit of an issue. People wanted assurances that I would be here for 3 years, 5 years, whatever, and that got harder and harder for me to be honest about. And to be honest, this last season was grueling. It was a real grind for us to come from where we started to where we got to. Took a little a little more out of me than usual. And, when people mentioned the health issue, it was really just the grind of, can you do this the way you want to do it? Can you do it the way you've always done it and be able to sustain it and do it for the entire season? And if I couldn't make a commitment to do that in the future, the way I think I have to do it, I thought maybe this was the right time based on those two sets of circumstances.
So I think as we look, so much of yesterday was, and look, sometimes in life, timing just, you get lucky. And I just was lucky to be on air yesterday when the news broke. It could have as easily broke in the morning. It could have broken when Hunt was on. It could have broken at 6:01 p.m. And then the whole tenor of the show is different. It just broke while I was on the air, and I got to have a lot of fun yesterday. And I think we measured both ends of the spectrum where, of course, you saw all my silly celebration, which was authentic. I mean, that was not in any way fabricated. I was sitting there in the chair when I saw the news, and in my brain, I'm telling myself, okay, be composed, be tempered. It's big news. Handle it correctly. And then at one point, it just snapped in my brain. I said, what the hell are you doing? Nick, just stand up and shout, yell, like emote, and do what every LSU fan is do. Be a fan for a second. So that's what that was. But we did come back and talk a lot about Nick as well, and the admiration, the respect, and the gratitude that I think we all should have for him. Not only the respect for what he did as a coach, but the gratitude for what he did at LSU. But so much of the story now starts to evolve as Nick explains why this is the right time to step away. And I think everyone has said it. Pete Jenkins was on the show with us yesterday and talked to Nick Saban about how NIL and the transfer portal have weighed on him. You just heard Nick say it there. Nick has built his roster, has built his program around the idea of get guys in, develop them, and keep them, and then you end up with a roster full of 4 and 5 stars that have stayed and developed. I mean, how many times do we ask the question, man, how did Nick get this projected first-round pick to come back to school for another year? Well, we've all made jokes over the years, but ultimately he did, however he did. And, the climate of college football has changed, and it's clear it weighed on him. And I think you're continuing to see that. A lot of the old heads in this sport don't like the evolution. That doesn't mean that college football is hurting. I mean, 25 million people just watched the national championship game. It was the most watched championship game in half a decade. Like, I mean, college football is fine. It's just evolving. And change is hard for a lot of people, especially when you're 72 and you're the greatest coach in the history of the sport. So, to that end, it's not surprising. But we'll talk plenty of reaction to Nick Saban's decision to step away. But now in the immediacy, it comes about who's next at Alabama. And, for Greg Byrne, by the way, this was Pete Thamel earlier today. Pete Thamel was on the College Game Day podcast and reacted to the job that Greg Byrne has ahead of him now in replacing Nick Saban.
You only, I assume, will hire a big-time headliner coach at Alabama. And to do that is going to be costly. Changing out all the assistants is going to be costly. Like, there's a lot that's going to flow in and out through there. But I would think that Greg Byrne, an accomplished lifelong son of an athletic director himself, has the challenge of his career ahead of him.
Challenge of his career, and that's you're trying to replace the greatest coach in the history of the sport. Yes, obviously. I know when Dan Lanning's name popped up, a lot of people looked at the $20 million buyout and said, Alabama's not going to spend $20 million on a buyout. When I called a few people around Alabama who know the program and cover the program and are involved, and the consensus out of that was, actually, how can Alabama not afford to pay that buyout? Cost should be no issue whatsoever when it comes to this, because the football program at Alabama has changed the entire university. I mean, Alabama's endowment right now is at $1.09 billion. It has fundamentally altered the University of Alabama. Their enrollment is now over 38,000. You go to that campus and see the new buildings that they built, the city of Tuscaloosa, the football program. Nick's 17 years have done that. They can't afford to allow any kind of erosion. So it's the old adage of you got to spend money to make money, and Alabama's going to be willing to do that. And I don't think there's any doubt if Dan Lanning was their guy, they were going to be willing to spend $20 million to buy him out of his contract. And that was the first name a lot of people mentioned, and I think whenever people were putting together their short list, and it's also pretty clear that Ross Dellinger had a tweet yesterday afternoon, after Nick's announcement, and he reported that Nick was interviewing assistants Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. Remember, the news leaked Wednesday afternoon of his retirement. Tuesday night and Wednesday, the day his retirement leaked, he was interviewing assistant candidates. And what that should illustrate is Nick knew this was coming, but he's going to have his fingerprint all over this hire. Whoever it's going to be, the head coach and the staff, whatever he's going to leave to who's next. So it's not solely going to be Greg Byrne. Nick Saban's going to have a ton to say about this hire. And I think, Kirby was the most obvious name and first name, and I think for pretty obvious reasons Kirby wasn't interested, but you make that phone call and make him tell you no. But Dan Lanning was apparently the next name that everybody was talking about. And I don't have any inside information. Like Greg Byrne ain't answering my phone call, you know what I mean? But Dan Lanning on Twitter today posted a video, and we'll play the audio. Paulie, I don't know if you can play the video accompany, but if not, Muse, just hit the audio. This is a tweet from Dan Lanning, the Oregon coach, earlier today.
Everything I want exists right here. I'm not going anywhere. There's zero chance that I would be coaching somewhere else. I've got unfinished business here. There's a lot that I want to accomplish here at Oregon. My number one priority is being elite here at Oregon. And we have the resources, the tools. Anybody that can't understand why you would want to be here at this place doesn't understand exactly what exists here.
Forgive me, that was from November 14th when Dan Lanning was asked about the Texas A&M job. And he said he's not going anywhere. And a lot of people kind of rolled their eyes and said, okay, we'll see. Well, he put out a tweet today with a video talking to his team saying he's not going anywhere. So you cross Dan Lanning off the list, and then it's, well, who's next? And the names you hear are Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin and Mike Norvell, and one that seems to be gaining steam is Kalen DeBoer. As a matter of fact, Joel Klatt was on Colin Cowherd's show earlier today and said, point blank, actually, I'll read exactly this tweet from Joel Klatt. I'll read his quote. This is, again, Joel Klatt, quote. Remember, Joel Klatt works for Fox, and he's a West Coast guy, so he would be plugged into the Pac-12, played at Colorado, knows Pac-12. Said, quote, I'm actually going to be pretty surprised if Kalen DeBoer is not the next coach at Alabama. So Joel Klatt thinks DeBoer will be the guy. So we'll see which way it falls, and I do have some reaction and some thoughts on each of those potential candidates. And I'll get to that, but let me stay on time. It's after further review. Our show Open Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy in Louisiana with the great taste of Bud Light. Hey, I want to remind you tonight, the LSU Lady Tigers, they're back on the floor. And tonight is the night that they're going to officially unveil the national championship logoed Bud Light aluminum bottles. And they're going to be giving away those free koozies as well. So get on out to the LSU Lady Tiger basketball game tonight. And check that out. Of course, make sure you got plenty of Bud Light. Drink easy in Louisiana with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of the LSU Tigers. All right, we're here at Rouse's on Florida. Y'all come on by. Beautiful store. Pushing 60 stores now, 60 Rouse's locations from Orange Beach, Alabama to Lake Charles and all points in between. We're here on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge today. All right, we're going to knock out a quick break. Okay, when we come back, I do have some thoughts on the candidates I just mentioned. And also, LSU apparently is still pursuing another SEC assistant for its coaching staff, and I do want to get to that, so we'll do that coming up as well. Stay with us here. It's AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time, or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001, or online at onehourbr.com. Hey, I'm not sure if you noticed, but next week, Monday, the temps are supposed to get into freezing, And then Tuesday, we're talking about lows in the 20s. So if you've not had your heater checked out, if your heater has funny noises, funny smells, maybe it's just not acting right, call River City's 1 Hour Air. They can get to you before next week. Get on that schedule. Get one of their technicians out to your house. I tell you all the time that they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001. You'll see them in the big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. They're all over town, and they can help you if you have issues with your heater. Do this before. Be proactive before those freezing temps come next week. It's River City's 1 Hour Air, 752-0001, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Were you talking to me?
All right, back here at Rouse's on Florida Boulevard. Nick Saban retires on the same day where Saban, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, all within a you know that old adage about how I don't mean to be morbid here, but celebrity deaths come in threes. Obviously, nobody died here, but you have 3 very famous coaches. I mean, Pete Carroll. If I'm not mistaken, there's only 3 coaches that have ever won a national championship and a Super Bowl. It's Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer. So Pete Carroll's fired in Seattle. Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach ever, 7 national championships. He retires. And then the next morning, Bill Belichick, the greatest NFL coach ever, with 6 Super Bowl championships, he and the Patriots part ways, although Belichick still fully intends to coach further. So what a news cycle. I mean, it's it's almost hard to even imagine that it would play out the way it did with all of these announcements condensed. If just to stay on that like celebrity death thing, if I'm not mistaken, Muse, do me a favor and look this up, please. When Michael Jackson died, it was like Michael Jackson. I want to say maybe Farrah Fawcett was the same day as well. It was like it was celebrities that in any of them in their own right would have been front page, top of the fold, 1A news. But Michael Jackson died, and he stole all the headlines. But in any event, this feels like that, where, I mean, Pete Carroll alone would carry so many news cycles, but then Nick Saban retires just hours later, and then, just hours after that, we learn of Bill Belichick parting ways with the New England Patriots. So what an incredible time. So obviously, and if you're here in the first segment of the show, and thank you for being here with us, and thank you for bearing with me.
Fawcett, Ed McMahon.
Wait, come on the mic, Muse. I know you're gonna have to turn me down, but come on the mic and say it.
Yeah, it was Michael Jackson, Farrah Fawcett, and Ed McMahon. Farrah Fawcett and Ed McMahon.
Ed McMahon. I knew it was Farrah Fawcett. Ed McMahon. Like, any one of those, right? Any one of those three would have been like enormous front page, 1A, top of the fold news. But then Michael Jackson died, and it's like Farrah Fawcett and Ed McMahon didn't get their moment. But anyway, that's kind of what it feels like right now. Real quick, we're gonna go to Tuscaloosa in about 10 minutes. And again, forgive me, my voice is atrocious after yesterday's yell fest, but it was completely worth it. But I'm gonna struggle through these 3 hours, and I understand there's a lot of you that probably aren't gonna want to like physically listen to me because I sound like this, and I do apologize for that. But thank you for being here with us and tolerate it to whatever degree you can. So we talked about Dan Lanning in the last segment. The other names that we're sort of hearing kind of prominently, I'm just going to react to it as to what my reaction would be if they end up in Tuscaloosa. I would be indifferent on Steve Sarkisian. It does make sense that Nick Saban would want someone that knows that he knows his culture, his players, how they've done things at Alabama, all that sort of stuff. Like that makes a lot of sense. But Steve Sarkisian, I'm a bit indifferent. He's a guy that's had some incredible opportunities. Washington, Southern Cal, Texas. Could Alabama be next? I mean, that might be, along with Urban Meyer having the Utah, Florida, Ohio State. Like that may be the greatest career as far as the places you've coached of any coach ever. If Sark gets the Bama job, but a guy who really hasn't won anything of significance as a head coach until this year, where he took Texas to the playoffs. So I would be indifferent there. Mike Norvell, I think, is obviously a very good coach. I don't know if he necessarily has the cachet that would move the meter. I would say the same about Kalen DeBoer, but very clearly, I mean, Kalen DeBoer has built the University of Washington up into a program that was in a national championship game, and he has been a championship head coach, albeit at a different level. Has a very Jim Tressel feel to it. Chris Kleiman, same thing, where you wanted a lower level, moved up to the higher level. If you can coach ball and know how to win championships, you can do it, and seemingly do it at any level. The one that I think is the most interesting for me anyway would be Lane Kiffin, if Lane Kiffin ended up at Alabama. And I don't know necessarily that that's going to happen. While I think Lane would take the job and I think Nick would endorse Lane, I don't know that you would have uniformity among the leadership at Alabama on Lane Kiffin. But here's why that's what I would love to see happen. And I think Lane could go to Alabama and would do very well because with the resources he's got at Ole Miss, he's done very well. So the thought is you give him the resources at Bama, of course he would do well. No matter who Alabama hires, that coach is not going to be Nick Saban. They will not continue at this pace. I know we shared this stat with you yesterday, but I'll say it again. In 17 years at Alabama, Nick Saban lost 18 SEC games. no matter what statistic you want to talk about, the playoff appearances, the national championships, the record, the whatever. 17 seasons at Alabama in the SEC, and he lost 18 SEC games. No matter who you bring in, it's never going to be that good. You're going to have an 8-4 season. Whoever the next guy is, it's going to happen because it happens everywhere. It's just going to happen. But Lane could go to Bama and do very well. But he's not going to do as well as Nick obviously would do at Bama. The flip side of that is every league needs its runt. Every league needs its doormat. Every league needs the game that you can take out your Sharpie when you get your schedule poster and you can uncap it and scribble a big W next to those games. And LSU needs that to be Sharpie poster, Sharpie on your schedule poster, scribble a W against Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Arkansas and the runts of the league that need to stay runts. What you don't need in a league where you've got Bama and Georgia and now Texas and Oklahoma and A&M's resources and Florida and Tennessee getting good again, what you don't need is Ole Miss going to the playoff. And if Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss, they're just as liable to hire the next Matt Luke and be a 1-7 SEC team. So I would so much rather Lane Kiffin go to Alabama because no matter who they hire, it's not going to be as good as it was with Nick. It just can't be, even if they'll be very good. But I would really love to see Ole Miss weakened with this hire. That would be my preference. All right, you can join us. Email us, tweet us, text us, 225-396-4400. 396-4400, 396-4400. We're brought to you by Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. Locations all over South Louisiana, 17 locations in all. You can find the location nearest you at shawbillstire.com. Get to the website. You can also shop tires there. So no matter your vehicle, you can punch in your vehicle's specifications, and they can match whatever tire you need for your vehicle and then lay out all the brands and then whatever dealer specials they have as well. It's all there at the website. You can chat with an associate. Go to the website. You'll see the little text bubble at the bottom. Tap it. Choose the location nearest you, and boom, in seconds you're chatting with an associate at Shaw Bills. Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com. Shaw Bills, where we keep you rolling. Speaking of, real quick, we're going to break. And when we come back, we're going to go to Alabama and talk to our buddy Mark Heim. But so many people are reacting to Nick Saban. I mentioned that Joel Klatt said that his opinion is that he'd be surprised if Kalen DeBoer wasn't the next coach at Bama. So he certainly thinks it will be the Washington coach. Joel Klatt on the Joel Klatt Show reacted to Nick Saban's retirement.
All I can say is, like, congratulations, because he went out on his own terms, at least. He went out with a team that he clearly loved and talked about with great praise and admiration, almost as a proud father this year in terms of how much this team grew. But this man is the greatest coach in the history of our sport. We're never going to see this again.
I'm not so sure that I would say we're never going to see it again. Because I'm sure when Bear Bryant retired, there's a lot of people who thought, well, no one will ever break Bear Bryant's record. Then Nick Saban came along. But if and when, maybe not in our lifetime, someone does come along and break Nick Saban's records and surpass him, they will have earned it because they'll have to do it in a completely different era than Nick Saban did. And the thing that made him all-time great is the fact that he did it in an evolving landscape of college football, from scholarship limitations and NIL and the advent of everyone being on TV. It's never been harder to win, and no one's adapted better than Nick Saban. Okay, it's after further review. Let's go to Tuscaloosa and get some perspective. Our buddy Mark Heim from WNSP Radio and AL.com will join us next. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Pluckers, Nicholson, Bluebonnet, dine-in, carry-out, or delivery. With 28 flavors of award-winning jumbo chicken wings, ice cold draft beer, full-service bar, sports on TV, it's Pluckers. Had lunch at Pluckers yesterday, as a matter of fact, with my buddy Stevie Levy, the king of the wing. Had the blue cheese chicken Cobb salad. I love that salad. Look, if you want to go eat clean, you can. I mean, you can get the monster tender basket. You can get it's boneless tenders. You can get them naked so they're not fried. It's just grilled chicken breast tossed in your favorite wing sauce. You can do that. Or if you don't want wing sauce, you do that and just dip it. You can have a side salad. So you can eat clean. So if you're going to binge and you have a friend with you who just wants to eat clean, no worries. I got something on the menu for them too. But if you want to binge, there's no place better than Pluckers. Award-winning jumbo chicken wings, ice-cold draft beer, fried everything. Try them. They'll fry it. It's Pluckers. With 2 locations, Nicholson and Bluebonnet. Remember at Pluckers, if you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
His name's King. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Nick's one of those guys that he can only do it one way. He's never going to scale back. He was never going to scale back and bring somebody else in to help him. He knows one way to coach football. And I think he'd gotten to the point where he felt like he had given everything he could. He'd done everything he could as a head football coach to make Alabama a championship contender every year. And this was the right time, the right place for him in his life and his family to walk away.
The man who broke the news, Chris Lowe, little perspective there on Nick Saban walking away. We're here at Rouse's on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge, the newest Rouse's location. Gorgeous. Y'all come on by and see us. Let's go over to Alabama. Our buddy Mark Heim has been a great friend of the show for so many years. WNSP Radio and AL.com. Mark, I'm sure it's a crazy busy time over there, but thank you for making time for us as always. How are you?
I'm great, and kudos to you over at Rouse's. We got a few over here in Mobile. I frequent the location quite frequently, if that even makes sense.
No,
how many times can you use frequently in a? It's been a long 24 hours.
It is infrequent that we have this type of news cycle. Mark, but you have frequently been a guest. Hey, let me just get a reaction when you heard the news yesterday. Was it expected?
No. This is the storyline that we've been getting for years, right? And so everybody from that perspective is like, yeah, of course it was going to happen sooner or later. But when it hits, it just hit different. It came out of the blue. No one around that program seemed to really know. Although if you go back and you look over the course of the past season, Matt, it kind of makes sense, right? So Chris Lowe, who you heard coming into the segment, spending a lot of time in Tuscaloosa this year, chronicling how convenient that was. Nick Saban seemed to have a little bit of a different attitude towards the media. He was a little more laid back, joked a little bit more. People were kind of hinting at it, but it's been out there for so long, Matt, that you just don't believe it until it actually happens. And even now, I don't think people fully comprehend the enormity of his decision.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second. What can you give us some kind of a scene setter? I mean, I know we've seen a lot of the tributes at the Nick Saban statue. I mean, it's like he didn't die. I mean, he's
right.
He's alive.
Right.
He's just not going to coach football anymore. But what's it been like there in the state?
There have been some. I think shock is the best word to use. But yeah, so like people were putting little Debbies at the feet of his statue in front of Bryant-Denny Stadium. The students at Auburn rolled Toomer's Corner last night in celebration that I don't remember the exact quote. Some students said the mean guy is gone or the bad guy is gone. So we do it differently. Everything hits a little different over here in Alabama. But yeah, I think everybody was kind of in scramble mode. I think we've always had these budgets. If you're in the media, I won't bore you with details about, the budget if this happens, if that happens, and all of a sudden it happens. And so everybody's just thinking, let's find out as much as we can. But he, and you know this already, so he told the players around 4:00 yesterday. Chris Lowe broke the story. Saban was on ESPN today, or snippets of that interview. He mentioned to Reese Davis, man, that he realized it was 3:55. He was talking to his wife Terry, and realized he had to make a decision. He didn't know which speech to give. He kind of went in there and decided it was time. So,
interesting.
It's been chaos over the last 24 hours.
Mark Heim is with us on Twitter at Mark_Heim, HEIMAL.com, and WNSP Radio. Mark, what's been the reaction internally as far as players, coaches, as you start to look at the fallout, right? How much do we know? How much of the staff will be retained? Do we know yet if players are going to enter the portal? What's the expectation there, staff and roster?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to the meeting they had. So they told the guys that they hope to have a decision in 72 hours. I think a lot of that immediacy and urgency was to keep guys from getting in the portal. As you know, Matt, when they make a coaching change, that transfer portal window kind of reopens, right? So now they've got 30 days. So I think that's going to be one of the big issues with whoever they wind up naming as the coach is recruiting the guys that he has and hoping that they're around long enough so that he even gets a chance to recruit them. But there's been no indication. Now, Saban, I believe, said earlier in the ESPN report that he plans on being around through the transition and beyond. I don't know in what capacity that is. I don't even know if it's an official capacity, but he made it sound like he's not going to be too far from Tuscaloosa.
Mark, is there any idea what Nick's role, if any, will be in selecting his successor?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's hinted at that he was going to be a part of it and help out. Whether or not he's the guy that says, no, I don't want him, or yes, I want him, I don't think anybody knows. I can't imagine that Alabama would go without trying to keep him in the loop. The question becomes, I mean, does that wind up being a hindrance for the next guy? Do you want that guy? Do you want Nick Saban looking over your shoulder, hanging out in Tuscaloosa after he's retired? I don't know, but I do think he's going to have a big say, which might be why Lane Kiffin has been so positive about Nick Saban on social media over the last 12 months.
I'll ask you about Lane in a second, but it is always interesting who does make the decision. We're in Louisiana where, man, the political climate here is so different where everybody feels like they have to have their say. What's it like there at Alabama with respect to Greg Byrne, athletic administrators, boosters, the board members, the like? How many people want to have a say in this?
Yeah, so that's going to be the big unknown. See, this might be low-key the biggest accomplishment Nick Saban managed in his time in Alabama, because before he got there were too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, everybody had to have a say, and everybody was a booster, and they're throwing money around, so they have to make the decision. And basically what he did is, I'm coming in, but I'm coming in to do it my way. Get out, for lack of a better way of putting it. And so that hasn't been an issue for years, because they gave him the keys to the kingdom. It was during the Mike Shula, Mike DeBose, Dennis Franchione years, right, where I hate to make this comparison, but it was a lot like it is at Auburn now, or has been at Auburn, where there are just too many power brokers in there making those decisions. So Greg Byrne has made the last couple of hires. Nate Oates comes to mind. So the thinking is it's going to be Byrne with a select group. I don't know how many of the quote-unquote power brokers are going to be involved, but to my point, Saban had gotten rid of that whole culture, which quite frankly was impressive.
Okay, so the obvious question then is who's next? Mark, I have, again, everyone when it comes to coaching searches, it's consider everything, believe nothing, right?
Right, right.
I've had people say, hey, they offered it to Kirby, he turned it down. Dan Lanning announced today that he's staying at Oregon. Yeah. From what you know, truth to that, those two, Kirby, Lanning, were they at the top of the list?
I think most people pointed to Lanning. I didn't hear a whole lot about Kirby over here in the last 24 hours. But, this is part of, I think, Alabama's problem, or at least their fan base's problem, which is we're Alabama, we can get anybody. No, you can't. We're in a total different era of college football right now. There's so much that goes into it now. Like, there's this belief that the superiority complex, I guess, that we can just go and get everybody. So I think the thinking was Dan Lanning or bust. And then you go to that next level, and then it was clearly Lane Kiffin wants the job. And so from a content standpoint, I'm like, yeah, bring Kiffin over. That'd be awesome. But now, Matt, I'm beginning to wonder, it might be better if he doesn't get it. So how much content would that provide? The fact that he's taking passive aggressive shots at social, on social, if he didn't get the job. But I think realistically with Lanning out, I think you look at Kalen DeBoer at Washington. I mean, I think he's got a contract sitting on an extension, sitting on his table on his desk that he has yet to sign. I know Lane Kiffin's going to be popular with some. To be honest with you, and this is where I think, Lane Kiffin has done an unbelievable job at Ole Miss. He's won it at a rate that few, if any, have ever been able to do over a consistent level, and it's just going to get better. So with that said, and this is where I think sometimes Alabama gets in its own way, there are some at Alabama that don't like some of the dramatics and social media stuff and, all the stuff that the players like. Alabama's kind of that get off my lawn guy.
Sure.
So I don't know if that's going to hurt Kiffin, get your popcorn ready stuff and, all that stuff that Lane Kiffin's known for. So I would say it comes down to those two guys right now. Now, whether or not they offer either, and we don't know if they offered Lanning, to be honest, because he was on, I think, McAfee today, and, McAfee didn't actually ask him if he was offered the job. They just talked about him taking his name out of the running.
It's a missed opportunity if they didn't ask him that question.
Yeah.
So Kiffin, DeBoer, Joel Klatt said he would be surprised if it's not Kalen DeBoer, but that just may be one guy's opinion. Steve Sarkisian's a name that would make a lot of sense, right? Mike Norvell's a hot name. Are there any other names that make sense, don't make sense as this thing moves toward? I mean, Mark, if 72 hours is the target, I mean, you're talking about we should have a decision here within the next 48 hours.
Right. So, and that's why I'm beginning to wonder, the narrative is, man, nobody saw this coming. It was a complete shock to everybody. Well, not if you're giving yourself a 72-hour time frame.
Right.
So the longer this goes, and it's not that it's that long, but the longer it takes for them to name, the more I'm almost thinking that Lane Kiffin's like their backup guy, right? Like sure. he's their safety school that they're going to. But no, you name the other guys that come to mind. Sarkisian, quite frankly, I don't know if it makes sense. Texas, we know all about Texas. He's certainly got them going the right way, and they're jumping in the SEC right now. Norvell I think, has picked up a little steam here over the last 12 hours or so. I think people are kind of split on. I think the public perception is there's one side that says, man, they didn't like the way he handled the whole not being in, and I couldn't keep guys in the program for competing against Georgians. And there are others that say, well, he coached like hell and got the most out of his guys and made the best of the opportunity. But those guys are really the only guys that are being talked about right now.
He is Mark Heim on Twitter at Mark_Heim, Heim. WNSP Radio and AL.com. Hey, Mark, I know it's busy, man. Appreciate you making time today, and always, I'm sure we'll be in touch soon, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Mark, be well. That is Mark
Right.
Heim.
Yep.
This is After Further Review. We're here at Rouse's on Florida Boulevard, brought to you by South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. Remember, look, I'm actually looking right out of the window here. There's the 104.5 ESPN van. Just to the left of it, there's my Volkswagen Atlas Crossport. I tell you about Volkswagen every day, and I drive a Volkswagen. I have for about 10 years now. We just got Erica a brand-new Volkswagen Atlas, the 3-row, 7-seater family SUV. Drive a Volkswagen, you'll understand why people have so much brand loyalty. They're safe, they're stylish, they're affordable, they're luxurious. And there's nobody better than South Point Volkswagen, Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer. South Point Volkswagen, what's your direction? Okay, Marcus Spears just texted. He was scheduled to join us at 4:10. He's got a sport. It's all good, but it's Swagoo, man. He's got a Sports Center hit, so it might be a few minutes after 4:15, 4:20 or so. But we will have Marcus Spears with us coming up here within the next half hour or so, right after Sports Center, so we're looking forward to that. All right, we're here at Rouse's on Florida Boulevard, the newest Rouse's location, and I'm fired up to be here, man. Y'all come on by and see us. They are open. It is a gorgeous location. Plenty of parking out here as well. Of course, they got the bakery. They got the produce. They got the cold section, the meat section as well, full-service butcher shops. Come on by and see our friends here at Rouse's. Let me knock out a break. We'll come back and wrap up hour number 1 from Rouse's. We will when we come back to put a button on it, there's so much of stuff to get to. I do want to talk about who LSU is still pursuing for its coaching staff after landing Bo Davis yesterday, another name that has continued to percolate. We will get to that. We're glad you're with us here on AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by the Watermark Hotel and the Renaissance Hotel. The Watermark is just down the street from where we are right now. So we're on Florida Boulevard, just on the outskirts of downtown Baton Rouge. And if you go into downtown Baton Rouge, you can't miss the Watermark. Right on the banks of the Mississippi River, it is Baton Rouge's original high-rise building, the old Louisiana National Bank building. And when they bought that building, they maintained so much of the history and the culture. You walk in and you'll see a lot of the artwork that is the original artwork in the building. Some of the rooms are incredible. They're all like bank vaults and things. It's an amazing building just to go tour because of the history. But it's a gorgeous place to stay, to have an overnight night away while you're staying in town, or if you have family coming to town. It's the Watermark Hotel. The Gregory, the restaurant there in the Watermark, the lobby bar is an amazing place to have a cocktail or a glass of wine. Check it out today in downtown Baton Rouge, the Watermark Hotel.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs.
Yes, Shane Beamer.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
I think a lot. I don't want to speak for him, but it's different. And then I think just the fact that it's just, there have been enough people that have talked publicly about the challenges with the portal and whatnot, and that's real. And I think for a guy that has done it for so long at a high level, just to see, maybe the lack of structure that we have in so many things right now in college football. I don't want to speak for Coach Saban, but it certainly didn't help. I would say, I know that.
That is South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer talking about the role that the transfer portal and NIL might have played in Nick Saban making the decision to step away right now. And that's been a pretty familiar chorus. If you were with us yesterday, you heard Pete Jenkins, who's, Nick Saban back in 2000 hired Coach Pete for his second stint in Baton Rouge. Coach Pete has continued every year to go, as you heard him say, he kind of coaches the coaches now. And there's a long list of coaches and programs that he goes to every spring and fall to work with. And he's continued to go work with Alabama and Nick Saban's coaches and players literally every year Nick's been there. And few people know professionally Nick Saban as well as Pete Jenkins does. And you heard Pete say it yesterday on the show that, that it has completely taken its toll on Nick Saban. And, the way that he wants to build a program. So I get it. And honestly, being completely candid and transparent, as an LSU fan, I'm thrilled to see it. Like, if those are the things that force Nick Saban out sooner, as a fan of a rival, I'm thrilled to see it. I want to see Alabama weakened. They are weakened without Nick Saban, period. That's not even debatable. So, in my organic reaction when the news broke, I think I even said thank you, NIL and transfer portal, for expediting Nick Saban's exit. Of course that played a role. And I know that there's this sentiment that those things are killing college football, but it's just factually inaccurate. You just had 25 million people watch the national championship game. You're seeing television contracts with these conferences that are billion-dollar television contracts. We're embarking in an era of a 12-team playoff. College football is as healthy or healthier than it has ever been But this transition is going to be tough on the old guard, people who grew up in a different era. This is going to be what younger coaches, all they know, like scholarship limitations. There was a time in college football when there were no scholarship restrictions. The game has changed dramatically as a result. So, yes, things evolve and things change, and sometimes it's harder for people who have done something a certain way for so long to change and adapt and evolve. And Nick has changed and adapted and evolved better than anyone, which is why he's had the consistent run. But at some point, everyone reaches their final breaking point. And apparently Nick Saban got there. So the beat goes on in college football, and college football will be fantastic without Nick Saban. But he left an indelible imprint on the sport. And a gigantic question is what happens at Alabama now, and that's certainly the tentacles touch LSU, which is why we will talk a lot about this. Okay, SportsCenter's coming up. We're going to get caught up on national headlines. We will have Mike Triplett here with us in hour number 3. We're looking forward to that. Marcus Spears is going to be with us in about 20 minutes from right now. When we come back, though, I want to talk a little bit about LSU's staff coaching search. Stay with us here on AFR.
AFR.
As we put a button here on hour number 1, I'll remind you about Traction, TractionSports.com, TractionSports.com, Traction, where champions are made. I keep referencing this, but I want to make sure I'm hammering this point home because we're creeping up on the start of preseason workouts for spring softball and spring baseball. The end of this month, we're a little more than 2 weeks away from the start of practice for spring softball and spring baseball leagues over at Traction. So if your son or daughter plays baseball or softball or wants to be in one of those leagues, make sure you get them registered now. It's easy. Go to TractionSports.com, TractionSports.com. You know where their complex is, right there on Burbank in Baton Rouge near Gardere. It's gorgeous. You got to check it out. And remember, aside from the leagues, they've got Traction Elite Physical Therapy. So if you need to get back in the game, Traction can help. Traction, where champions are made.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford F-150 lifted trucks. $10,000 off new Ford F-150 and 3.9% financing. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
It was a humid day. Barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. For the first time since 1999, the New England Patriots need a new head coach. Bill Belichick and team owner Robert Kraft both decide to part ways. Kraft was asked today if he considered bringing in a GM to work with Belichick.
Where he had the responsibility and then someone else takes it, it's going to set up confusion and, well, it was his pick and that was a bad pick, or he didn't play him right, or, it wouldn't work.
Kraft also says he decided not to make a trade involving Belichick, who had 1 year left on his contract. Belichick plans to keep coaching. Browns corner Denzel Ward hurt his knee in practice today. His status questionable for Saturday's wildcard game against the Texans. Oregon coach Dan Lanning says he's staying with the Ducks. His name came up as a possible replacement for Nick Saban at Alabama. Michigan linebacker Junior Colson will enter the NFL draft. Scouts have Colson projected as a top 50 pick.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Cannon. Coming on Friday, I'll tell you if it's fair or foul to question the future of the Chiefs dynasty. It's unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
Let's ride.
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. We are here at Rouse's, the newest Rouse's on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge. Thrilled to be here. Ribbon cutting was here this morning around 8 a.m. There's about 1,000 people here. There were people waiting out. They gave away 100 mystery gift cards at the start of the day to the first 100 people, so you didn't know the amount on the gift card. So amazing day. And when I got here around 2 o'clock or so, there was a giant lunch crowd here in the deli. It's buzzing. It's packed. There's so much staff here. Come on by and check it out. The new Rouse's on Florida. You cannot miss it if you're driving down Florida Boulevard. First of all, it's enormous. And then there's giant, swooper flags everywhere. You will not miss us here on Florida Boulevard. I think we're just down from, I don't know what the cross street is right there. But what is it? We're near Ardenwood. Yes. Florida and Ardenwood, you can't miss us. Okay. Marcus Spears is going to be here in about 15 minutes. Love Swagoo, and we're so glad we're going to get a couple of minutes from him. He's got a Sports Center. He's going from Sports Center then to AFR. But we appreciate Swagoo, of course, who was part of that integral class at LSU with Nick Saban that signed here in 2001. That brought LSU its first championship in 45 years. And then during his NFL career, and then obviously now as an analyst, first with the SEC Network, now with the ESPN, has covered Nick Saban's time at Alabama. So I think he'll give us great perspective. And excited to talk to Swagoo here in about 12 minutes or so. Before the Nick Saban news broke on Wednesday, we thought the giant breaking news that would carry the day would be that LSU hired Bo Davis away from Texas. And that is a very big story, but it's a pimple on a bee's nose whenever you compare it to Nick Saban retiring and Pete Carroll getting fired and Bill Belichick parting ways with New England. But the Bo Davis news is really significant, and we reacted to that. You can catch all the reaction on demand. Just search After Further Review in your favorite podcast app or on the 104.5 ESPN or the After Further Review LSU YouTube channel. But one of the really interesting stories, and this is a report from Football Scoop, is that even with LSU hiring Bo Davis, they're still pursuing Kevin Peoples. Now, Kevin Peoples is the Missouri defensive line coach. Is there under Blake Baker. And he's been there for the past 2 seasons. And late last week, on Friday, when Football Scoop and I think it was On Texas and others reported that it looked like Bo Davis was going to stay in Austin, a lot of the attention here shifted after Blake Baker was hired to Kevin Peoples. So Kevin Peoples is he's got 30 years experience in coaching, and he's been at, the early 90s was at Northwestern State in Natchitoches. He's bounced around a bunch. He actually had 2 stints at Northwestern State. I spent a long time at Arkansas State in Jonesboro. Was at the University of Arkansas with Bobby Petrino in the early 2010s as defensive line coach. Went to UAB in 2013. As a matter of fact, do you remember the game in Baton Rouge in 2013 when LSU played UAB and Odell had the kick six? Famously, Alabama's kick six in 2013 against, Auburn's kick six against Alabama happened because Auburn's coaches were watching game film of LSU and saw Odell do that against UAB, and that's why they put it in. Anyway, Kevin Peoples was on that UAB staff that lost in Baton Rouge that day. He went to Georgia Southern, spent 4 years at Tulane, so in Louisiana, and then went to Indiana for 2 years, and now the last 2 years at Missouri. And he has coached defensive ends, defensive line, special teams, and he's done that for 30 years as an assistant. He's never been a coordinator. He's been basically a defensive end, defensive line, special teams coach. And his expertise really is edge rushers. So apparently, even with the news that they're hiring Bo Davis, LSU is still pursuing Kevin Peoples. And I think that's fine, by the way. How you want to structure your staff, you want to let Bo Davis coach your defensive tackles, you want to bring in Kevin Peoples and let him coach defensive ends, fine. You want to let Peoples maybe coach linebackers, or Blake Baker can coach linebackers and you bring in a safeties coach. There's a lot of different ways that you could do this. But the biggest question is how Brian Kelly wants to structure his staff. Here's what I mean. You've got your head coach and you've got 10 full-time assistants. So follow me here. I wish I could diagram this for you, but I know you're listening. You got 10 full-time assistants. Right now on offense, you've got Joe Sloan, Cortez Hankton, Frank Wilson, and Brad Davis, right? So you got 4. Mike Denbrock's gone, so you got to replace Denbrock. If you promote Sloan to OC, you still have to hire a tight ends coach. As I understand it, that would be most likely be Slade Nagel from Tulane, who would be high. If you promote Sloan to OC, keep him as quarterback's coach, you need someone to coach tight ends, Slade Nagel would be the guy, most likely. Excuse me. Defensively, you got Blake Baker, Bo Davis, John Jancic, and Bob Diaco are still on staff. That's something a lot of people don't mention. Everyone says the whole defensive staff was fired. No, they weren't. You've still got Bob Diaco and John Jancic on staff. Are you retaining Diaco and Jancic? If so, then you've got 2 spots available. Would it be Nagel and Peoples, and that's it? Well, now you get into some real odd questions. If that's what you do, well, then who coaches your defensive backs? Do you hire a cornerbacks coach or a quarterbacks and safeties coach? There has been a lot of talk around the program of the desire to bring in a full-time special teams coordinator. Well, if you bring in a full-time special teams coordinator where that's their only role, well, then you're taking one assistant away from the defensive side of the ball. Maybe instead of a defensive line and edge coach, you only have a defensive line coach. Well, if that's the case, and you're still pursuing Kevin Peoples, and where does he go? Blake Baker can coach linebackers or safeties. So does John Jancic go coach linebackers like he was supposed to, and Baker coach your safeties, and you bring in a cornerbacks coach. Corey Raymond is the name we've all heard, but still waiting to see if they get that across the finish line. This is why I think a lot of the why there's been a holdup. People are wondering why haven't these things been announced. I think you have to decide who you can get and then what roles they're going to fill, and it's a chicken or the egg question. Do you decide first what roles you want to fill, or is it more important to get the guys you want on staff and then determine how you're going to delegate their roles and responsibilities? So that's something Brian Kelly and his staff are going to have to piece together. You know, if you're able to add Kevin Peoples, you get a guy that has been a great defensive line coach to complement Bo Davis, a guy that's also got a great reputation as a recruiter and has experience in Louisiana at Tulane and Northwestern State and experience in the SEC. So there's a lot to like about that if they're able to get that done. You know, Football Scoop is reporting that LSU is still pursuing Kevin Peoples. So we'll see if they're able to get that done. You know, the interesting thing, though, about Peoples and Bo Davis and a lot of the assistants we're talking about here, y'all, they have no ties to Brian Kelly. Kevin Peoples has no ties to Brian Kelly. Bo Davis has no ties to Brian Kelly. And that's, by the way, it's a good thing. Not in and of itself that you're hiring people that don't have ties to Brian Kelly, because that would be a negative. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is, very clearly, Brian Kelly is trusting his people to help, who have been on championship staffs here, to help him assemble a championship staff that can build a championship roster here. I mean, the Bo Davis hiring has Verge Osbury, Frank Wilson, Scott Woodward, Pete Jenkins. It's got their fingerprints all over it. But Brian Kelly has to say, go get me my defensive line coach. And they delivered. If Kevin Peoples is hired, that's your head coach delegating to his defensive coordinator saying, you want this guy? Go make it happen. And that's a level of trust as a leader that you need from your head coach. And clearly, Brian Kelly trusts the people around him to delegate those very important responsibilities to make this happen. So Football Scoop's reporting LSU is still pursuing Kevin Peoples. Missouri is still trying to keep Kevin Peoples. So as that develops, we'll certainly talk more about it. Okay, it's after further review. We're here at Rouse's on Florida Boulevard. We've got Marcus Spears coming up after this break. We are brought to you by our friends over at First South Farm Credit. At First South Farm Credit, for 100 years, for more than 100 years, they've helped you finance land. You want to buy that hunting property? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Agriculture? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. You want 20 acres to build your dream home? Your first option should be First South Farm Credit. First South Farm Credit is how you buy land, to say it simply. Go to firstsouthland.com. That's firstsouthland.com. Okay, y'all. We're here at Rouse's on Florida Boulevard, the newest Rouse's location. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Let me knock out a quick break. I'm excited about this. Our buddy, the Big Swagoo, will join us when we come back next. Of course, helped rebirth the LSU football program with Nick Saban. We'll get his reaction to it as we continue. We're glad you're here on AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. You know where they are, but I'll remind you. Actually, one of them is just down the road from us right here. The one I tell you all the time in Mid-City. If you turn off of Florida onto Donmore, the Mid-City location, you turn off of Florida onto Donmore, boom, it's right there on the right. But there's 4 locations: Seagoneer Airline, LA-16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, just a few minutes from where we are right here, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. If you're on Greenwell Springs and you're leaving Central heading toward Baton Rouge, I mean, you literally pass the sign that's like, thank you for visiting Central, and boom, it's on the right. But if you live there, you know where it is. Hey, we're supposed to get awful, like, freezing temperatures early next week, Monday, Tuesday. They have drop cloths to cover your plants to protect them from freezing temperatures. They've got them at Clegg's. They have material to wrap your pipes as well. Take care of that now, and Clegg's can help. Buy local, shop local at Clegg's Nursery.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Hey, look what I found! The motivation I needed to live healthier. My new favorite sport.
I found my groove.
I found I'm part fish.
My second win when I needed it most.
I found more than a gym.
The affordable childcare this mom needed. Time for myself. We found our why. Have you found yours?
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
His name was King. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to Six Rings.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Naturally, have some pretty reliable sources on the inside in Tuscaloosa, and he had told people that he was unusually tired this year and that 14-hour days, which is about what he logs on a nightly basis. So they were just harder to recover from. At 72 years old, he just felt different than he did 10 years ago, which, by the way, is, I think, completely understandable, but you just never thought it was real. You never got the sense that he was going to be fulfilled doing anything other than the grind that is running a college football team. So I think the first initial reaction was shock.
That was Greg McElroy, who, of course, was the quarterback of Nick Saban's first championship team at Alabama, but one of the stars of Nick Saban's first national championship team, period, is the big swagoo Marcus Spears, who's good enough to join us for a couple of minutes. Swagoo, always appreciate you, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, my brother. You got to excuse me. I'm at home. My room is hollow, but I'm here, man. I'm doing great.
Hey, man, I don't care about your hollow room. It's fine. Hey, Marcus, I was on air yesterday when the news broke about Saban, and I did about an 8-minute celebratory dance around studio, so I got no voice, man. So between my voice and your hollow room, we're not exactly studio sound, but it's all good, man. We appreciate you. Hey, let me just start with the easiest one, man. What was your reaction when you saw the news yesterday afternoon?
Yeah, I'm not going to go with shock, man. Me knowing Coach Saban, and kind of looking at his demeanor throughout the year, you could tell that fatigue was kind of setting in, and it's just something, dude, you got to realize, man, a lot of former players, we look at this dude as a superhero. So it's a different reaction. It's almost like, for real, coach? Like, you tired of all of those fourth-quarter programs and, seeing the light on after a big win when we were at LSU, getting ready for the next game, not wasting any time, trying to figure out how many times Miss Terry had seen them throughout the week because he devoted his life to this game and being the best. It was just like, this don't feel right. And then as you reflect a little bit more, especially from my vantage point, man, just grateful, the gratitude, dude. And I've told the story before. I talked about it all day today on ESPN. When he was recruiting me, he told me, don't make a 4-year decision, make a 40-year decision. And the fact that I'm still reaping the rewards of not only going to my hometown school, but playing for who I wouldn't even engage in an argument is the greatest college football coach of all time. That's just a script that you don't think can be written. But, I was just grateful, man. So gratitude is probably the thing that I would associate with when I heard he was stepping away.
Marcus, do you think, that 03 team just got honored for its 20-year reunion this year. Do you think the day will come where Nick Saban is welcomed back and honored at LSU?
I think the day will come, and I think the day should be soon. For as much as these rivalries matter, and obviously LSU and Alabama turned into a thing itself, because of him going there, but also because we also represented well while he was at his tenure at Alabama. But we also have to recognize his enormous gift and the way that program shifted because he showed up for that 5 years, man. And I don't think it's something that you can – I wouldn't let the end or how you felt about him being at Alabama dismiss the trajectory that he set LSU on, that we still have an opportunity to enjoy.
Yeah. In
2001, man, and I take a lot of credit, along with my teammates in that recruiting class, as players, we felt the shift, right? And I know you remember, Matt, we signed most of the guys that were highly rated in the state of Louisiana.
Yep.
We signed guys like Michael Clayton and Marquise Hill and Chiron Carey that had catch shape and that was going to attract other people. Andrew Whitworth, who I think is going to be a Hall of Famer in the NFL. The following year with Kyle Williams, Glenn Dorsey, and Tyson Jackson. And you see where I'm going here? A lot of guys in Louisiana were leaving the state. We were going to Florida schools. Miami was one of my top schools because we just did not think of LSU the way that people think of it now. And I think he changed that in 2001 when he told us, I'm putting a fence around the state of Louisiana, and I'm not letting you guys get out of here, but not only talking about it, showing it with his actions. And I don't know what it was, man. I'm going to be honest with you, man. The believability that we could accomplish something that hadn't been done in a long time just permeated throughout all of those conversations. And for myself in particular, when he was recruiting me, all I can remember was him saying, you're going to have to come on this team and earn a spot. And, when you're the number one tight end in the country and everybody's been telling you how great you are, it's a sobering reality, but more importantly, it felt truthful and honest. And I think that's what the program was built on at that time. And, the rest is history on what we accomplished and what we were able to do. But more importantly, man, you just needed a genuine dude that wanted to win, that was going to outwork everybody, and also build a rapport with his players that felt like family atmosphere while I could still be hard on you and tough and critical because I had an expectation. And that's what he was able to do. And, myself along with a lot of other guys out of that class and classes after us, and even the class before us, we got our names on plaques in front of Tiger Stadium because we accomplished something great. And Nick Saban was the start of that, bro.
The great Marcus Spears is with us here. I got one more, Nick, and I do want to ask you about Bo Davis as well. You have such an interesting perspective because you were recruited by him, you played for him, you won with him. And then in your professional career now as an analyst, especially where you started with the SEC Network, you got to cover Nick at Alabama later in his career after he had won championships. That gap, Marcus, from when you played with him, or played for him, I should say, to when you covered him, that gap between, how did he change? What was the most notable difference from the guy you played for to the guy you covered?
Yeah, he realized that the athlete was changing and the mentality of the athlete was changing. And I'm not going to cast any aspersions on the younger generation. I'm not going to say that they needed to be coddled. They just needed more attention. And he knew he had to adjust from, the way I do things or the way I did things, not only in recruiting but coaching, which I never capitulate on my foundation. I'm going to always have the way I go about my job and get guys prepared to play and the demand that I put on them. But the personality came out more because that's what was attractive to kids. And I think he evolved, realizing those moments. There are the times which I felt a little shaded, but there are the times in Alabama where he would take the team to the lake house. I was like, damn, we ain't go to the lake house at LSU. But it was a different Nick Saban, right? I know, man. I used to tell him all the time, I've never got on the boat and rolled at the lake house, man. But yeah, I did fish at his house though, so I guess at that time that was as much as he would do. But nah, man, I think he evolved, and I think in order to be great or considered, we throw that term is thrown around loosely. And me, Matt, and we have our correspondence on Twitter. I don't take that lightly. When you calling somebody the GOAT or you saying somebody's great, I think accomplishments have to be a part of that. But it also has to be a tone setter, a trend setter, ahead of schedule, ahead of time. And I think he was able to evolve, man. And I think there is no more seminal moment than when I was at SEC Network covering Alabama and he hired Lane Kiffin. Because everything I knew about Nick Saban was the polar opposite of what I knew about Lane Kiffin. But he understood that football was going a certain way. And there were going to be times where I couldn't hang my hat on defense, which he had done for the majority of his career. Sometimes I'm going to have to score 40 to 50 points to win a game in college with the way it's going and the game is evolving. And when he did that and was able to go forward and win national championships and usher in a new kind of way that they played football at Alabama, that's when you realize he's not only evolved as a coach, but he's evolved as a person just enough to pay attention to the type of athlete that he's having to recruit now. And I think that's what kept him relevant. That's what kept him going. And I think it energized him as well to go as long as he did.
Hey, man, speaking of Twitter, you got the Marcus Spears shop linked on Twitter. And I went to go buy a hoodie that had the Swagoo the Stare looking over the glasses, and it isn't there anymore, man. When you bringing that back?
Man, we got to bring it back, man. We had some. So my publicist, funny story, my publicist, Ashley Smith, is an Alabama alum, believe it or not, bro. We met at ESPN. It was not on purpose, but nah, she is my ace. And we wanted to have better fabrics. We wanted to create a different look. So stay tuned, man. I can't give it away, but it'll be some part of that back. So
all right, okay, good. I saw it. I went to go buy it, and it said the item was no longer available. I was like, "Come on, man!"
And man, them things flew, bro. Them things flew out of the shop, bro. Like, it was so fast.
Hey, last thing, and I very much appreciate your time. I saw your tweet. And look, I mean, to say you were effusive with praise on Bo Davis is an understatement. So tell me why, man. Tell me, what is LSU getting and bringing Bo Davis back to LSU? Why are you so excited about this?
Yeah, everybody knows him as Bo Davis. I call him Bo Dilly. And it's because I have always thought the standard at LSU was for us to dominate the line of scrimmage. For as much as we've had great receivers, and now we have two Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks in Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, we've had so many good skill players, but I've always thought, and if you talk to Andrew Whitworth and all of my guys, we always thought it started in the trenches. And that's how we got this program going. especially from a D-line perspective. And I just want us to get back to taking over games from that position. And Bo know what it looks like. He knows what type of defensive lineman can do that. He knows the athletes up front matter a big time when you start talking about winning in college football throughout the years. And, man, to be honest with you, coming off of us talking about Nick Saban in Alabama, that's where the mismatch has been throughout a long part of these years. Bo is going to bring back, I don't even want to say the old mentality, but he's going to bring back defensive line plays that when people sit in the greatest stadium in the country, that's going to take over games. And you'll be able to cheer for sacks and quarterback hits and sack fumbles and some defensive linemen getting their hands on the football and going to the end zone. That stuff is coming back because that's both business expectations. That's why I was so hyped about it, bro.
Hey, man, our friend Mike Detillier shared this stat for a lot of years when LSU was known as DBU. He said everybody's got it wrong. LSU's D-line U because they had the longest streak in the country of having a defensive lineman drafted of any school in the country.
Hell yeah.
And it was one of the more underappreciated stats that I think we can all shine light on now. Swagoo, you're the best, man. I can't thank you enough for taking some time today, man. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you soon.
No doubt, my brother. You keep telling the truth down there in Louisiana and keep them folks on their toes, man.
I'll do my best. That is the one and only Marcus Spears on Twitter at mspear86, but you know that. The big Swagoo, Southern Lab, LSU, national champion, NFL for just about a decade, and then, of course, now with ESPN doing awesome stuff. We appreciate Marcus. It is After Further Review. We're here at Rouse's on Florida Boulevard. We appreciate our friends at Rouse's so much for having us today. Hey, I want to remind you about the Williamson Eye Center. I love this, man. I got a text earlier today. I shared this with you last week. You may not remember it, but there was there's an AFR listener named Ryan, who Ryan Hodgins, shout out. He heard me talk about the Williamson Eye Center, but was really nervous about LASIK and the laser and doing the surgery. But he kept hearing me talk about it. Finally called Dr. Blake Williamson, scheduled the appointment, and got it done. And Ryan Hodgins got his LASIK done today. So congrats to Ryan. Excited to tell you his success story and so many others. It's the Williamson Eye Center, 924-2020, 924-2020. Or WilliamsonEye.com. That's WilliamsonEye.com for the Williamson Eye Center. Okay. I was asking, if you're watching, I was asking Bo, I was making sure that that Marcus wasn't just sitting there on hold still. We were done. All right. It's After Further Review. We're glad you're with us. So much of this conversation today, as you'd expect, is centered around Nick Saban, his retirement, what's next at Alabama. Mark Heim was with us from WNSP and AL.com last hour. You just heard Marcus Spears. We will have our weekly chat with Mike Triplett in about 45 minutes, so we can put to bed the Saints season. One final visit with Mike Triplett of NewOrleans.football, so we'll look forward to that conversation coming up. When we come back, I do want to pivot briefly because there was something I had intended to talk about yesterday that because the Nick Saban news broke, we had to pivot and change the whole show. But it's what a former Raiders executive had to say about the situation that unfolded in the Dome on Sunday with the Saints scoring late against the Falcons and the reaction and everything like that. If you haven't heard it yet, you'll hear it next, and I want to react to it. We'll do that next here on a Thursday edition of AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana.
AFR.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Go to getgordon.com, getgordon.com. You can fill out the form there on the homepage at getgordon.com, or you can always call 888-8888 if you've been injured in an accident and it's not your fault. Do what injured people in our state have done for more than 30 years. When I say injured people in our state, I'm talking about the more than 10,000 Louisiana residents that Gordon and his team of attorneys have helped recover damages after they were injured. You go to getgordon.com. That's getgordon.com. That sun is right in my face, dog. 888-8888 is the number. Yeah, you got to go higher than that, Bo. And I need to see the clock, bro. Come on. 888-8888. Remotes are so fun. Or go to getgordon.com. That's getgordon.com. For Gordon McKernan, injury attorneys, you know what to do. Get Gordon and get it done.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 Black Widow trucks, $20,000 off new Ram 1500 trucks, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The best.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
We'll talk to Mike Triplett coming up here in about a half an hour from right now. Little Saints recap segment. And we will let's get much more reaction to the gigantic news of the day. Bill Belichick no longer with the New England Patriots after 24 seasons, and Nick Saban stepping away, retiring from the University of Alabama. So we'll get to all that coming up here after the top of the hour. I'd intended to talk about this on Wednesday. But the Nick Saban news broke, and it just completely changed our show. It's so odd when a Week 18 game between two teams that aren't going to the postseason becomes such a giant national talking point and storyline. But that's what happened when the Saints scored at the end of the game against the Atlanta Falcons. And we learned, obviously, that it was in victory formation. And you know the story by now. Jameis and the offense defied Dennis Allen. They scored when they weren't supposed to. They were just taking a knee. Arthur Smith got mad. Dennis Allen, in turn, when threw his players under the bus, etc. Well, there's been a ton of reaction to that. And Amy Trask's reaction was interesting. If you're not familiar, Amy Trask spent a quarter century in the front office with the Raiders, and was there when Dennis Allen was the head coach of the Raiders. And apparently, she didn't have super high praise of Dennis Allen. Amy Trask was on the What the Football with Susie Schuster and Amy Trask podcast, and she gave her reaction to when she learned the players went rogue and disobeyed Dennis Allen.
In what world does this happen to a team where a quarterback basically gives his head coach the middle finger?
In what world? When your head coach is Dennis Allen. Susie, I'm speaking from experience. As you know, I overlapped with Dennis Allen in Oakland for 1 year. And everything I observed during that year is such that when that play happened, I wasn't the least bit surprised. Now, if it happened to any other coach, I would have been surprised. It happened and Dennis was the coach. I was not the least bit surprised.
Okay. Why not? Amy Trask continued.
Shortly after Dennis was hired by the Saints, I was asked about him, about his coaching, his leadership on CBS Sports. And I answered in the following manner because now I have an addition to that answer. I shared my views of Dennis's leadership, and I use that word in quotes. And I quickly noted that, look, we can all learn on the job, we can grow on the job, we can improve on the job. I not only grew on my job, I grew up on the job. I grew up on the job, I learned, I made mistakes, and I said, Dennis can do that as well. And what that play made clear to me is he has not changed his leadership style.
Bingo. And I think this is an important point. I was okay with the Saints hiring Dennis Allen. I've said this all along. It made sense. You had won a lot. Dennis Allen had been a head coach before. This was an opportunity for him to be a head coach again in a better environment, better ownership, better leadership, better roster. He had made his mistakes, see if he had improved. There's a lot of reasons why you could think that could work. And Amy Trask is right. She thought, well, yeah, he can improve. Everybody can improve. But that play was evidence of why I had. And she, the number 4, Muse, good. She illustrated further why that last play, it tells you everything you need to know about Dennis Allen.
My point is not to belabor the past, but I gave him the same benefit of the doubt that he could go to New Orleans and learn from what went wrong in Oakland, where, there's that expression, he lost the locker room. I don't know that he ever had the locker room to lose it, but what I saw in that game when Jameis indicated that, yes, he knew the team was instructed to take a knee in a victory formation, but the team decided not to do that, that told me everything I needed to know.
She's not wrong. This is Amy Trask, again, who worked in the front office with the Raiders when Dennis Allen was there as the head coach, and she's sharing her personal experience and how what happened illustrates what a lot of us are saying. And I want to remind you, and you could say, well, Sean Payton hired Dennis Allen. Yes, he did. Sean Payton hired Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator. Sean Payton didn't hire Dennis Allen, the head coach. Amy Trask knew Dennis Allen, the head coach, in Oakland almost a decade ago. And they're very clearly still the same person. He didn't learn or develop the lessons that he should have learned as a head coach the first time. She told Amy, play this one, Muse. Amy Trask tells the story of Dennis Allen's very first staff meeting in Oakland. Give a listen.
Day one, he's hired, calls a staff meeting or asks that a staff meeting be called of every single person in the organization. And everyone was so excited, and every single department, coaching, trainers, equipment, tickets. I made sure every business department was there. The auditorium was packed. And he got up and he was really rude. Not only didn't he demonstrate leadership to enthuse the staff and to excite the staff and to lead the staff, He was demeaning. He was derisive. And people walked out of that room just stunned.
You know, it's one person's perspective, but it's interesting because it underscores from a decade ago what we're all saying now in a completely different place and environment for someone who has no ties whatsoever to the New Orleans Saints. That's why her perspective is interesting. And this is symptomatic of Dennis Allen's tenure as a head coach, and quite honestly, an extension of Derek Carr as well. Dennis Allen throwing his players under the bus in the postgame, this was fascinating. I was listening to Off the Bench with Hester and T-Bob, and keep in mind, Hester played in the NFL, and they had Matt Flynn with him as well, and Matt Flynn played in the NFL for the Packers and with Aaron Rodgers, and he played in New England and New Orleans and Seattle and Oakland. And listen to this back and forth with Hester and Flynn about how guys in the locker room, these guys who played in the NFL, how they reacted to what Dennis Allen said, throwing his team under the bus there at in the postgame press conference.
I've never seen a more disappointing or weak performance of a head coach than that statement at a press conference.
I agree. Wholeheartedly agree.
As a player, you never throw your team under the bus like that.
Even if you disagree 1,000%,
you just don't say anything. Nope. You don't have to defend it.
Just say we're going to handle that internally. Miscommunication.
Yeah.
Having your teams back is the ultimate day one. Hey, install one. We're in this together. That's gold. We are, no matter what, we are in this together.
Yep.
Hell or high water, we're in this together, right?
That is day one coaching in Little League. So I saw your thing say, tell me you lost the respect. I don't even know if he lost respect. Like, it wasn't a disrespectful thing towards Dennis Allen that they changed the play. Like, get the guy a touchdown. Who cares? Like, okay, he changed the play. You shouldn't change it. But, like, they did it. They're grown-ass men.
Yeah.
Whatever, you defend them. But the lack of leadership that is shown, I would guarantee you that he has zero respect in the locker room right now.
You don't have to like me saying it. How about two dudes that played in the NFL? Not even a commentary on the play. If that's Bush League, with that, not even that. Just what the head coach did in the postgame press conference. That is Dennis Allen, and he's built a culture where Derek Carr chastises Chris Olave for giving up on a route that wasn't even supposed to go to Chris Olave. Should have you not given up on the route? Yeah, but there's your quarterback on the field chastising the receiver. There's your quarterback getting into a shouting match with Eric McCoy, his center, on the field. It's the displacement of blame. The goal line interception against the Falcons. Derek Carr only he was like half pregnant with taking responsibility. Yeah, well, the guy just made a great play. No, Derek Carr, that's your fault. You stink. Own it. But that's the problem, because that's the culture that Dennis Allen has bred in New Orleans. And you don't have to like me saying it, but listen to executives from other organizations, guys who have been in NFL locker rooms that have no affiliation whatsoever with the Saints or with Dennis Allen. But they're all singing the same song. And the longer the Saints continue to double down with Dennis Allen, the longer the Saints will continue to exist as an irrelevant team in the championship sense in the NFL. All right, we're at Rouse's, the newest Rouse's location on Florida Boulevard, right at Ardenwood. We'd love for you to come by and join us. Muse, we'll have Tigers and the Pros to wrap up hour number 2 next.
AFR.
AFR by Action Industries. I'm going to give you the website. Website's long and a little confusing, or you can just go Google Action Industries. Action, INDINC.com. It's Action Industries. They've been around since 1982, serving the petrochemical and the refinery markets. And their facility, they are here. They are local. Their facilities are here. They're from the area. They hire local talent through all levels of their organization at Action Industries. If you're a maintenance manager, if you're a turnaround coordinator at one of these refineries, of course, those dozens of refineries up and down the river that mean so much to our state's economy, Action Industries can go to work for you. They have an exemplary safety record, higher than the industry average, and their quality of work is unmatched. It's Action Industries. Check them out online today, Action Industries.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward. always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford F-150 lifted trucks. $10,000 off new Ford F-150 and 3.9% financing. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to Six Rings Baseball.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
All right, wrapping up hour number 2, we're here at Rouse's, the newest Rouse's on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge, which just had the ribbon cutting this morning at 8 a.m. Musso, Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
Yesterday, the Cleveland Browns, they activated Grant Delpit off of injured reserve, but today it was made known that he is still out, ruled out with the groin injury, so he will not participate in the wildcard round game against the Houston Texans. An honor for Derek Stingley Jr., named AFC Defensive Player of the Month for both December, you'll remember, and now January. 19 tackles and 9 passes defensed, 3 interceptions, and a TFL in that period. Wrapped up the season just in fantastic fashion. Once he got healthy, Derek Stingley became the unstoppable player that we know him to be from his time at LSU. NBA action last night, double-double for Naz Reid in the game against the Celtics. 19 points, 10 rebounds, shot just under 50% from the floor, blocked 3 shots to round out his night. And in the G League, Darius Days filling up the stat sheet, 20 points and 7 boards in his game. Shot almost 60% from the floor and 50% from 3. A couple great nights for former Tigers there. That is Tigers in the Pros.
We're brought to you by Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. You may not know this if you listen outside of the Baton Rouge area. But HUDCO touches every corner of the state. So the home office founded in Bossier. So shout out 318. Of course, we got our Baton Rouge office as well. And if you go to the website at hudcoroofing.com, hudcoroofing.com, look at the top of the page. You'll see a phone number for every area code in the state. So no matter where you are, from the smallest repair to the largest replacement, we'd love to help you out. Our great commercial division as well can help you with a re-roof or a coating product that it may be for a metal roof, TPO. We can help. HUDCO Roofing and HUDCOroofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Go to the website today. Right there on the homepage, you'll see where you can fill out the form for that free no-obligation roofing inspection, and boom, someone will be in touch with you from our office right away. We can help you get your insurance claim approved and get that new roof. It's HUDCO Roofing. Do business with someone you know. HUDCO Roofing and HUDCOroofing.com. SportsCenter's coming up right at the top of the hour. We'll let you hear more reaction today from the Bill Belichick news and the Nick Saban news. The Falcons have requested permission to interview Raheem Morris. The Panthers, Chargers, Commanders have also asked to interview Raheem Morris, who's currently the defensive coordinator with the Rams. But Morris has been in the division before. Of course, was the head coach of Tampa, was the interim head coach in Atlanta after Dan Quinn was fired. Saints have had a lot of success against Raheem Morris. Saints were 3-3 against him when he was with the Bucs, and the Saints were 2-0 against him his year in Atlanta. So the Saints 5-3 against Raheem Morris as a head coach in the division. We'll follow that as it moves along. Hour number 3 is next.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Energy-efficient replacement windows, beautiful entry doors, hardy plank and vinyl siding. They do it all at Relief Windows. As a matter of fact, I'm looking out right here at Rouse's in this corner. And in the deli, they got windows right here. And they're tinted and all. They're beautiful picture windows. But I'm just thinking, man, this is the type of thing that Brandon Holly and his staff do incredibly well. They can do commercial jobs. They've done apartment complexes and beautiful commercial work. But like at our home, this is what they did. In our main room, our den, so it's a big open floor plan. It looks into our outdoor space, our pool. It's really beautiful out there. He came in and said, we should put picture windows all in this room. And so there's no paints. It's gorgeous, gorgeous decision. And energy efficient, keeps that room climate control. It's Relief Windows. They can help you as well. Get them online at reliefwindows.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 Black Widow trucks, $20,000 off new Ram 1500 trucks, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
We're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
His name was King. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
I'm Doug Brown. After 27 years, or rather 24 years, 17 division titles, 9 trips to the Super Bowl, and 6 championships, head coach Bill Belichick is leaving the New England Patriots.
For me, this is a day of, gratitude and celebration. Start with Robert and his family. It's great. So much thanks for the opportunity to be head coach here for 24 years. It's an amazing opportunity. Received tremendous support.
Belichick thanking team owner Robert Kraft, saying this was a mutual decision, but also saying he hopes to coach somewhere else. There are 7 other NFL coaching vacancies. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce says he plans to play next season and doesn't plan to stop playing anytime soon. Steelers safety Minkah Fitzpatrick will play in Sunday's wildcard game against the Bills. He missed the last 3 weeks with a knee injury. Ohio State wideout Marvin Harrison Jr. will enter the NFL draft. He's the son of Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison Sr. and is ranked number 2 overall on Mel's big board.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career you'll love with flexibility, great pay and benefits, and one of the country's top workplaces? Come join their growing team. Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
That's right.
Hour 3, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Matt Moscona, we are here on location today at the brand new Rouse's on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge. A gorgeous, beautiful grocery store and supermarket for this North Baton Rouge community, just minutes from downtown and from our studios. And we are thrilled to be here on this day, the ribbon cutting. We got 1 hour to go. Mike Triplett will be here in 15 minutes. We'll talk some Saints as we do the postmortem on the season. But we'll start here, hour 3, this drive time hour in the Central Time Zone. Talking about the 2 biggest stories of the last 24 hours, Nick Saban retiring, Bill Belichick leaving the New England Patriots, and tons of reaction to it, as we have done throughout the show today. Last hour, Marcus Spears was with us reacting in hour number 1. We went to Tuscaloosa and visited with our friend Mark Heim from AL.com to get the boots on the ground reaction. If you're wondering about the who's next, the only real up-to-date information that seems to be out there right now is that Alabama's looking to move quickly. As Mark Heim told us, they expected this to be done in about 72 hours. So just 25 hours or so after the decision, you would expect sometime in the next 48 hours, maybe Friday or Saturday. We may know who the successor for Nick Saban will be. It appears it will not be Oregon coach Dan Lanning, who did on Twitter today release a video addressing his team where he very clearly said he's staying at Oregon. So who is next? Kalen DeBoer from Washington has gained a lot of steam. Mike Norvell from Florida State is a name people mention. And then former Saban assistant Steve Sarkisian at Texas, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Those seem to be the most commonly mentioned names right now. And we'll follow it and see what direction ultimately that Alabama goes as the story continues to develop. Nick Saban did today speak for the first time, giving about a 25-minute interview to ESPN where he sat down with Reese Davis and explained to Reese Davis why this was the right time to step aside and call it a career.
Well, I don't think there's any good time, but I actually thought that in hiring coaches, recruiting players, that my age started to become a little bit of an issue. People wanted assurances that I would be here for 3 years, 5 years, whatever, and that got harder and harder for me to be honest about. And to be honest, this last season was grueling. It was a real grind for us to come from where we started to where we got to. Took a little more out of me than usual, and when people mentioned the health issue, it was really just the grind of, can you do this the way you want to do it? Can you do it the way you've always done it and be able to sustain it and do it for the entire season? And if I couldn't make a commitment to do that in the future, the way I think I have to do it, I thought maybe this was the right time based on those two sets of circumstances.
There's two things in particular. He did mention when the health issue that people talked about. He did react to that. I'll give that in a second. But he said also in recruiting, people wanted assurances he would be there 3 to 5 years, which of course would be the normal cycle that a commitment would play. 3 years or maybe 5 years as a fifth-year senior. Well, at 72 years old, it's hard to be honest to say, how do you hang out and continue to coach until you're 77 or plan to be or can give any assurances? So at that point, he didn't want to be dishonest and so decided this was time. And it reminded me a lot of Steve Spurrier at the end of his career, because Steve Spurrier got asked every year, how much longer are you going to coach? And Steve Spurrier would always say, not 3-4 years. And it was for recruiting purposes, because that's how other schools would negative recruit you. Contracts would always be extended to make sure they were 4 or 5 years for that reason. So, that's a very real answer from Nick there, I believe. He was asked about, the health issue sort of that he related or referred to there. Here's what Nick said about his health.
There's no illness, Miss Terry's fine, I'm fine. But, when I was young, I could work till 2 in the morning, get up at 6 and be there the next day and be full of energy and go for it. But when you get a little older, that gets a little tougher, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
There were internet rumors about, I use that very loosely, about maybe Terry Saban having some health issue, and kudos to Reese for asking the question, for Nick for answering it, that he's fine, she's fine. To put it on the record there. But I think sometimes when something happens in what appears to be a sudden way, maybe you start to ask rightly the question, what's really going on? And so that maybe led some people down that path. And I have no insight into that whatsoever. I mean, it ain't like Nick, Miss Terry, and I are hanging out on the weekends. You know what I mean? So I have nothing to add to that. I'll take the man at his word. He's talking about his health and his wife's health, and if there's something he wants to share or they feel like they want to share, then please, by all means, feel free. But if he says there's no health problems, I'll take him at his word. But he talked about, the way that he works and wanting and needing to be able to do it a certain way. And at 72, it's being harder to get up and continue to do that. And you heard in that first cut as well where he said this season was particularly grueling. And remember, it started rough. I mean, they were very unsettled at quarterback. They lost by double digits at home to Texas. They had a very bad game in September on the road at South Florida. But then they get all the way back, and they end up making the college football playoff and winning the SEC. Reese Davis asked Nick Saban what made this season particularly grueling.
My role was a little different this year. I was more involved with the defense, had to be more involved with the defense. That took a little more time, put a little more stress, on me, made me feel like maybe I wasn't doing as good a job as I needed to in other parts of our team. And I just have a high standard for how I do things. And if I don't feel like I'm living up to that standard, I'm really disappointed. I wasn't disappointed in the season. I wasn't disappointed in the team. I wasn't disappointed in the players. In fact, this team was fun to coach. They came a long ways, and I was really proud, of the way everybody bought in and did what they did to have the success that we had. But at the same time, I felt like I could have done a better job if I was younger.
There are few people in the media that know Nick Saban better or have covered Nick Saban more closely than Paul Feinbaum, who earlier on SportsCenter gave this reaction to Nick Saban's retirement.
Not surprised, El, because there's been signals pointing toward this for a very long time. But the problem is every time you dare to breathe that, somebody wants to punch you in the mouth and say that he's never going to retire, that he'll be there forever. But the reality is I think he knew how special this season was. He beat the odds. Don't forget the 4th and 31 at Auburn when nobody expected them to do it. And then he did the unthinkable. He ended the Georgia hopes of a three-peat. And I think that was very special to him because he stopped Georgia and went to the playoffs. At the Rose Bowl last week, a lot of people came out of there going, there's no way he would walk away, and the narrative got drowned out. But deep down, I think he knew this was the moment. Win or lose last week, it was a great time to leave.
I want to react to that. I do want to remind you about Michelli Weighing and Measurement, Michelli.com, Michelli.com. If you weigh or measure something, they sell, service, rent the products you use to weigh and measure. It's funny, I was talking to one of the vendors here who handles the produce at this Rouse's, and it got me thinking. I mean, think about when you are bringing product, you're weighing that product that you're bringing in, and of course, for the farmer weighing it to the supplier, the distributor, here to the market, those scales have to be accurate. It's how you're pricing, and scales that aren't calibrated correctly, even a small decimal point multiplied over the thousands and thousands of pounds of produce and other merchandise can compound to be very costly. It's why it's so important to be accurate. And at Michelli Weighing and Measurement, they say we show the world what measurement can do. If you weigh or measure something, Michelli sells, services, rents the products you use to weigh and measure. Check them out online at Michelli.com. That's Michelli.com. I think what Paul Feinbaum said there is very appropriate about Nick. That anytime someone would dare to breathe that he's considering retirement, as he said, you get punched in the mouth. But someone who said he'll never retire. I think, of course, we know that everybody's career eventually will end. And from my perspective, I know we've joked about it a lot over the years, but I never anticipated Nick Saban would go the route of Bobby Bowden or Joe Paterno, coaching into his 80s. And I think, my own guess is that those two men desperately wanted the career wins record. They both passed Bear Bryant's wins record, and then they had up and down seasons late in their career, and that record continued to change hands. And I think for both of them it mattered very sincerely, and that's why they didn't give it up, and it was at the to the detriment of the programs that they coached and loved and built. And I never thought Saban would do that. And I think we all knew this was always a possibility that he could step away at some point. But it doesn't make it any less jarring when it happens, which is why my reaction was what it was yesterday, and why I'm sitting here sounding like an adolescent male who's going through puberty because his voice keeps cracking. Because I yelled for 8 straight minutes yesterday on air, and I got no voice left. I'm thrilled that Nick Saban is retiring. I am equal parts grateful for his time in Baton Rouge, bitterly disappointed because of all the success he had in Tuscaloosa, much of it at LSU's expense, but also respectful of the incredible job he did as the greatest coach in the history of this sport that we all love. But I'm glad to see him gone. So what's next at Alabama? We will continue, of course, to follow that story. It is after further review. I will, we'll knock out a quick break here, come back, and we'll have our weekly visit with Mike Triplett of NewOrleans.football. Excited to talk to Mike, as we do every single week, but this time it's a postmortem. We put a button on a disappointing season for the New Orleans Saints and talk about how they start to move forward. We'll do that next here on AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Darren James and Associates, brokered by LPT Realty. LPT Realty, talked to Darren yesterday, has hit 7,000 agents. I've been telling you 6. Well, over this past week, they hit 7,000 agents. The fastest growing brokerage in the history of real estate. In 1 year, they went from launch to 7,000 realtors and growing every day. For context, some of the biggest brokerages in the world that you know, names you know, it took 7 to 10 years to get that kind of volume. Why is LPT different? The way they market, the way they communicate, the way they collaborate. Oh, you can learn more when you talk to Darren James. And the way they profit share with their agents, which is why if you are a realtor, you better inquire about LPT Realty. Call Darren James, 335-7666 or agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart...
After further review with Matt Moscona. Presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Muse, hit my triplets open.
Mike! Yeah? Mike! Yeah?
Saints coverage with some Mad Libs mixed in.
Why don't you just go by Mike?
It's time to talk black and gold with Mike Triplett of New Orleans Football. Presented by Benny's Car Wash. Family owned and operated since 1951.
Mike Triplett, New Orleans.football with us now. How are you, man?
Doing great. How are you?
I wish I had a voice, but all things considered.
Oh, no, what happened? It's not important in your line of work.
Well, I yelled and screamed like an ass for 8 minutes when I learned Nick Saban retired, and it was so worth it though, Mike. I'll be a meme and a GIF for the rest of my life, and I don't even care because it was so worth it. But man, I am on the struggle bus today. I was trying to get.
You left it. You left. What did you do? You left it all in the microphone.
In the studio. Believe me, it was not just in the microphone. It was all over the studio. I'm surprised you haven't seen it on Twitter. Just search, you'll find it. Hey, the touchdown, the scandalous touchdown heard around the world.
Oh my gosh.
What was your take? One last take. What you got?
Yeah, well, I can't completely dismiss it. I have a feeling as time goes on, it's not going to be a lingering story. I had a couple of takes. I had the one take that this incident alone, I actually would argue I think something like this could have happened under Sean Payton. I mean, we saw Michael Thomas hide a cell phone in the goalpost with his teammates. We saw them pretending to pee on the Falcons logo. If any of them had asked Sean Payton's permission to do those things, he would have said no, and they would have been, quote-unquote, defying their coach. But I'm also not going to dismiss it as nothing because it is the latest in a series of indications that we've gotten both in our faces and off the record and behind the scenes that the respect level is not that high for Dennis Allen, and it's something that he's working to overcome, and it's something that might lead to personnel changes this offseason that he has not quite captured the authority and the respect, and frankly, you have to win to get that. And we know for sure that he hasn't won enough here, too. So,
is it possible to fix that respect level?
You got to win. You got to win. I've used. I borrowed it from a colleague. That suggested he has the respect level of substitute teacher, which is sounds dismissive and insulting, and it is too in effect, but it's still an authority figure, and the good kids in class still do their homework and turn their homework in and don't get in trouble. And a few other people know they can goof off. We saw this team still thrive no matter what that respect level is. They have a lot of guys in the locker room take a lot of pride in what they do. Coaches and players alike told some of the young players that they weren't working hard enough. They weren't studying hard enough. They weren't meeting the standard enough, and they got to be tougher. And they won 4 of their last 5 games. And people like DeMario Davis and Cam Jordan and Eric McCoy and James Hurst and older guys and younger guys like Rashid Shaheed and A.T. Perry and Chris Olave, they're still leaving it all out on the field. So this is not a lost locker room. It's not a mutiny type of locker room. But you got to earn it. You got to earn it by winning and having success. You got to prove to everyone that it works.
The answer to this question is going to be both, but I want you to go more layered and tell me which is more. The struggles this year, was it the players or the coaches?
Both.
I know the answer is both.
I would say this. I would say everybody looking at the Saints and being like 7-10 and 9-8 is unacceptable, and these aren't my Saints, and who can tolerate mediocrity? How dare anyone tolerate mediocrity? I just defy you not to tell me that in like 2020, when you were looking at 42-year-old Drew Brees or however old he was, that everyone didn't believe when Drew Brees retires and if Sean Payton ever leaves and if these salary cap issues come home to roost, this is not going to be a great team. And they're not a great team. I think they have absolutely underachieved. I think Dennis Allen has underachieved. I think Pete Carmichael has underachieved. But I don't think they're working with like top 10 elite NFL roster in the first place. We've talked a lot about Derek Carr. I think he's finally looked like what we expected him to be, I think, over the last month of the season. But nobody thought he was going to be a top 10 quarterback. We were hoping he'd be right in that next tier. And a lot of these guys who've been all pros, Pro Bowlers, have been getting older and getting injured. Michael Thomas and Ryan Ramczyk and DeMario Davis, Cam Jordan. These guys aren't first, second team All Pros anymore. So I think absolutely, very fairly a combination of both.
So, and Mike Triplett's our guest on Twitter at Mike Triplett, NewOrleans.football. Chat's brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. You're 100% right that everyone in 2020 or 2021 could have anticipated the Saints regressing post-Breeze, Peyton, etc. You're 100% right. The question, though, is can this approach, with this regression, can the approach work of continuing to double down with the cap issues and this staff and these people and continuing just to try to run it back? So that's my issue is I think they very clearly outlined a strategy that, in my opinion, won't work. Do you have a different feeling that they can find a way to make this approach work?
I think your skepticism is completely fair. And I was more supportive of it in each of the last 2 years. Although I have leaned a little more toward the, after we were about to see Tampa Bay in the playoffs, and Tampa Bay did the let's catch up on the salary cap this year and pay a cheap quarterback in the meantime and see what happens. That's a better way to finish 9-8 than we maximized all our resources and finished 9-8.
Yep.
So I like that approach better. It's easy to say in hindsight. I thought the Saints' approach each of the last 2 years was going to be good enough to win the NFC South, because I also don't completely tear it down and rebuild when I have Marshawn Lattimore and Cam Jordan and Demario Davis and Tyrann Mathieu and Ryan Ramczyk and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. And you were stuck between a rock and a hard place when you probably had the most talented roster in this division. And I like that they picked a direction. I like that they didn't just say, let's be stuck in the middle without a plan. Their plan was, let's go win this thing a couple times. So not winning it these last 2 years is a real shame, because there was a huge opportunity to do so. The other teams stunk or were rebuilding in some form or fashion. And now I think it gets harder, because I think all those guys I just named are now 2 years older than they were 2 years ago. And I think the rest of the division is going to keep getting better. So I think it becomes harder and harder to do that. And the problem will solve itself if they don't replenish this roster with draft picks. They did it. They rebuilt without ever tearing it down because of how great their 2016 and 2017 draft classes were. They haven't drafted that well. So eventually, these staples they're not going to be able to lean on. This team's going to give them no choice if they don't start drafting better.
They did win 4 of their last 5. They did go from 7 wins to 9 wins. Are those material signs of progress, or is that a product of you beat 4 bad teams at the end of the year and you won 9 games against the worst schedule you've ever had?
Yes, I think the 2020 they were pretty similar teams. I was going to say I think the one that just happened probably was a little better. I think that 4-1 stretch was something to really applaud. I'm not going to say get excited about, but I think it's a legitimate 4-1 stretch, because the NFL stinks. Like, every team in the NFL is playing, 3 or 4 lousy teams a month now. There's like 3 good teams, and then everyone else is 8-9 and 9-8. So it doesn't bother me that they went 4-1. Like, it wasn't just because of the schedule. They had to beat, they beat the Giants. The Eagles could beat the Giants. They beat, whoever. But at Tampa Bay was a good win. But obviously got creamed by the Rams and outclassed, and they're not in that class. So I'm not going to give them too much credit, but I'm going to count it as 4-1 because it's pretty mediocre NFL. And what you want from your teams is to beat the bad teams, because you're going to get 7 or 8 of them. They're going to get 7 or 8 of them next year too. You want to be able to beat those teams, so you get credit when you do. But yeah, you can put a little asterisk next to it, since it's one of the easiest schedules they ever had. A team that should have won 10 or 11 games and flex their muscle on that schedule instead of just getting by with it.
At Mike Triplett is where you find him on Twitter, NewOrleans.football. A couple more for you, Mike. So they go into this offseason prematurely again, now 3 straight years without making the playoffs. No team year to year is exactly the same. There's always going to be players one year that aren't back. Who are some of those guys that we're anticipating either won't be re-signed, will be cap casualties, could retire? Any names you're anticipating won't be back next year?
That's an excellent plug for the article I just published today, where I went through all of them. I went through all the decisions that they have to make. I spelled out the money ramifications. I spelled out the football ramifications, and here's everyone they have to make decisions on. And so the good news is, even though they're $80 million over the cap, we've covered this team long enough that we could all take a pencil and a sheet of paper out and be the first one to raise their hand and say, done. It took me 8 players to get under the cap. And if I went through 18 players, I've got them $40 million under the cap. It can be done. That's not going to be a hurdle to them competing this year. And the even better news is their list of free agents. It's not like, oh, that guy's a free agent. Shoot, they're going to have to franchise tag him. No, like they're all under contract. Michael Thomas is not under contract. Andrew Speed is not under contract. Jameis Winston is not under contract. Then you get into like Zach Vaughn, Isaac Yiadom. But they could afford to bring back every player on their team if they wanted to. Obviously, though, it's football decisions that we're talking about. Do they want to trade Marshawn Lattimore? We saw them rework his contract to set it up for a possible trade. That's something they're definitely going to explore this offseason. Michael Thomas is going to be back. There's bigger issues at play than can they afford him. Does he want to be back? Do they want him back? Do they want to consider anything with these older players? I don't know how much trade value you get. I expect we'll see Alvin Kamara, Demario Davis, Taysom Hill, Cameron Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May. I expect we'll see them all back, but maybe they have to talk to them about pay cuts because they're going to start thinking about some of the things that we were talking about before. But those are kind of the major ones.
If they do move on from
Ryan Ramczyk, I should have mentioned Ryan Ramczyk because of the health issue. He's going to be. They're going to want him back, but they're going to need doctors to assure him that he is going to be able to come back.
If they do trade Lattimore, that would be a post-June 1st trade. It would have to be correct because you're talking about a $45 million dead cap hit.
Well, it wouldn't be 45. I wrote it. I think it was right around 30. If you trade him, the way they reworked his deal is all the actual money he's due this year becomes the other team's responsibility. His salary, his bonus, everything. So you would only be charged with the previous dead money. I think it's about $30 million. Still a huge hit, but something you could theoretically do. Like I said, I just did the math, and I could get them $30 million under the cap. And then the good news is he would never be on the books again. So instead of like, hey, we've still got to pay this guy for the next 3 years, it would hit you all at once and it would hurt. But post June 1st is how you'd rather set it up. But then he actually cannot go to the new team until after June 1st. So I'm not positive how that would look.
Okay. I am just so disgusted at the thought of just eating $30 million and just doing this all.
There is also a school of thought that that's what a lot of people want to see the Saints do. He's the only guy that we're talking about that could get you a first-round pick. I mean, Chris Olave could probably get you a first-round pick. You don't want to trade him. He's still cheap on the rise. But, like, if you traded Marshawn Lattimore, I think it would probably be right on that edge, right back to the Jimmy Graham, Brandon Cooks trade. Let's call it the 31st pick in the draft. Get something like that. It's a player you're going to stop paying $20 million a year, so that's money and cap space. You can, that would be a move that signals, hey, we've got our future in mind a little bit too. So something we haven't seen from this team, and I'm going to be very curious to see if they show desire and willingness to think more long term than right now, because when on the field, he's the best player on the team right now.
That 31st pick turned into Ryan Ramczyk, so I'd take it at this point. I think if you could,
you're more optimistic than I thought. I gave you 2 examples, and you went with Ramczyk instead of Stephon Anthony. So look at you with your rose-colored glasses.
I did the math, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that was not the Stephon Anthony first-round pick, so I'll go with Ramczyk. I'll give Jeff Ireland credit for that one. All right, last thing. What are the most glaring needs for this team this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, quarterback's in play. I think we're going to talk about it a lot more strongly 5 weeks ago than we are now. Derek Carr really kind of found a nice groove, and maybe health was a big factor. They started talking about that at the end. So I think we feel better about that. But after everything you've been with at the quarterback position, you can't rule it out in this quarterback-heavy draft. But the urgent needs are the offensive and defensive line. It's been that way for a long time. I think you have to add to the defensive line in free agency. I don't think you have time to wait for someone to develop there. I think they need another pass rusher. I don't know if they're paying $20 million for that guy, $8 million for that guy to be part of a rotation, but I think you have to add to that. And then I think you need to add to the left side of the line in the draft, because you could bring back Andrews Pete and James Hurst, but those aren't long-term solutions. No matter what Trevor Penning is, he's going to need someone to play next to, even if he earns a starting job.
He is Mike Triplett, NewOrleans.football on Twitter at Mike Triplett, with us all season long on Thursdays, courtesy of Benny's Car Wash, bennyscarwash.com. Hey, Mike, we appreciate your time all season, man. I'm sure I'll bother you again at some point, but I know I and our audience appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for making the time this season.
Always happy to join you. Thanks for having me.
Be well. That is Mike Triplett. This is After Further Review. We'll continue from Rouse's.
AFR.
And we are brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. And here we are at this beautiful new Rouse's location in North Baton Rouge on Florida Boulevard. We're at Florida near Ardenwood. If you're driving down Florida, you can't miss it. Trust me. There's big red swooper flags everywhere, but the inside is gorgeous. And it's so great to have a supermarket of this size and scale and quality in this neighborhood. So for all of the communities that surround, they'll be able to have this market right here, which is fantastic, with all the fresh produce and everything that you'd expect. An in-house butcher, a deli, the bakery, the floral department, all of your beers and wines, you'll find it here at Rouse's. They are the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's is also the official supermarket of AFR. So we are thrilled to be partnered with Rouse's and to tell you about all the great work they do in all of our communities. It's Rouse's. Check them out at rouses.com. Rouse's. This feels like home.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford F-150 lifted trucks. $10,000 off new Ford F-150 and 3.9% financing. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction.
After further review with Matt Moscona. Presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
You go back to his comments after the game, and I think he knew he did an amazing job, especially this year, and how much that team had improved. And again, once at that age, I don't think any of us should be surprised when somebody's like, you know what, this job, especially as a college football coach now, with the NIL, with the portal and everything and the crazy schedule the way it is, I mean, it grinds people away. And he did it for a long time, and he did it better than anybody's ever done it in this sport. So I guess we shouldn't be shocked that today is that day.
That is Bruce Feldman reacting to the news that Nick Saban is retiring. Of course, news broke yesterday while we were on the air, and today has been so much of the reaction to what transpired 24 hours ago and what is next for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We're going to move quickly here in this segment. We went a little long with Mike, but I don't care that we did because we needed to do a postmortem on the Saints season, and there's nobody better to ask than Mike Triplett, so I was glad we did that. And we got Jimmy coming up for Otter Locks, who, by the way, the Otter He gave the 14 parlay, which did not hit, but that was early. But as far as Otter Locks, which he gave in the final segment, he did go 2-1. So if you did not play the early 14 money line parlay, you just played Otter Locks at the end, you did have a 2-1 night. You had another winning night last night with the Otter. So we'll get to Otter Locks here in a few minutes. One of the names that is that I think for years a lot of people have considered that would be an obvious replacement for Nick Saban is Dabo Swinney. And Reese Davis was on with ESPN Radio with Amber and Ian, and he talked about the possibility of Dabo at Alabama and why that's not going to happen.
The idea of Dabo Swinney, as good a coach as he is, I think that's probably past time. Not that Dabo's not in the prime of his coaching career, but he's built such a giant at Clemson. He's trying to get it back on track right now, and that probably is not something that will happen. I don't know. I would imagine, speaking not messing with Happy, that Dabo would probably be more interested in staying put.
One other thing that I found really interesting about is if Dabo's out, Dan Lanning from Oregon earlier today said he's staying at Oregon. The names that seem to be most commonly mentioned are the former Saban assistants, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, and then successful young Power 5 coaches like Mike Norvell, Kalen DeBoer, who just played for a national championship. Those are the names that are most often mentioned. Joel Klatt was on the Herd today with Colin Cowherd and was asked what Jimmy Sexton's impact will be on this search, and you can't minimize that because Sexton, CAA, basically they control the pieces on the chessboard, and they like to put their guys in certain spots. And Jimmy Sexton, there was a video of Jimmy Sexton at the Malmore facility today at the University of Alabama. So to minimize or altogether ignore his impact on either the search or the money would be naive. But here's what Joel Klatt had to say.
Jimmy Sexton is going to control this search, every bit of it, because he controls every chess piece on the board. He represents Steve Sarkisian. He represents Kalen DeBoer. He represents Mike Norvell at Florida State, Dabo Swinney at Clemson, James Franklin at Penn State. So he will try to slow play this as long as Alabama will allow him so that he can get every one of his clients the raise that they feel like they deserve. So he's going to try to play it slow. Alabama's going to try to go quickly. In my estimation, the most logical candidate in terms of the expediency of the way that they want to operate is Kalen DeBoer. I'm actually going to be pretty surprised if Kalen DeBoer is not the next coach at Alabama.
About that, Joel Klatt on the Herd, I'm not going to say calling his shot, but said he would be surprised if it's not Kalen DeBoer. And when Mark Heim was with us earlier today in hour number one, Mark Heim from AL.com and WNSP Radio, said that the word there is they're expecting this to be 72 hours. And if that's the case, 72 hours, I mean, you're now 24 hours in. So, we'd expect to have an answer here within the next 24 hours, or 48 hours. So we shall see as we follow it. Hey, we're brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com. Until I went over to Lee Michaels last week, sat down with Amy and Scott, I didn't even know there was such a thing as lab-made diamonds. And thank God I didn't, because I'd never buy one. And Lee Michaels will never sell them. Every diamond in their case is a mined diamond. It comes from the finest diamond mines in the world. Scott makes a trip every year over to India to buy for their 10 Lee Michaels locations. And every diamond before it goes in the case is hand inspected by a family member. lmfj.com to see their selection, to learn more, to find the location nearest you. You can always walk in. Remember, you'll always get the Lee Michaels experience. Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. We'll see what the Otters got for us. Great night last night for the Pels. They blew the doors off of the Dubs. I got home last night just in time for tip-off, and it was an ABC broadcast. And the Pels were bombs away, and I mean, they hit 5 consecutive threes and were up 15-2 in a blink. And Steve Kerr's calling timeout, and they never let up. It was a relentless barrage for the Pelicans, who have now blown out the Kings and the Warriors on this West Coast swing. And tomorrow they'll play Denver. And man, they are playing as well as anybody in the NBA right now. And it all started with that loss in the in-season tournament semifinals in Vegas to the Lakers, that embarrassing loss. I mean, I was watching that game in New York when we were there for the Heisman, watching that embarrassing loss, and since then it was like a light switch for this team. Don't give them a day off in Vegas, and they'll be fine. They've certainly been impressive. Okay. So we'll see if the Otters got anything in the NBA or if it's all college basketball tonight. We'll see. Our final segment here from Rouse's, the newest Rouse's on Florida Boulevard, number 68. Rouse's number 68. It's here on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge. We're thrilled to be here today. Okay, our final break. We'll come back. We'll do Otter Locks to find out what we're betting on. Stick with us here on AFR.
AFR.
Glow Resources, they are complete employer solutions. If you own a business and you have had trouble hiring, you need Glow Resources. What kind of business do you own? Doesn't matter. Glow Resources can help. You need skilled blue-collar workers? They've got you covered at Glow Resources. GLO, glowresources.com. New year, tax season is upon us. An accounting firm that needs tax professionals, accounting professionals, Glow Resources can help. GLO, glowresources.com, with offices all over and employees literally all over the world. Glow Resources can help you no matter the industry you're in. Skilled blue-collar labor, white-collar workers, C-level management. They can help you find your next employee with a 93% retention rate. That's Glow Resources. Go to glowresources.com. GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Down the stretch we come, final segment here on a Thursday edition of AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. One thing left to do, find out what we're betting on tonight. Time for Otterlocks.
Otterlocks, presented by Lofton Staffing Services. At Lofton, we put people to work. Call us today at 924-0200 or go to lofton.jobs.
So we turn to the one and only, the incomparable, the of an incomprehensible, the Oddfather himself, Jimmy Ott. Otter, how are you?
Doing good, man. How's Rouse's today?
Rouse's has been awesome. My voice is totally shot to hell from yelling like an idiot yesterday. But I don't care. It was totally worth it, man. So when you give us Colucci picks, I'm not going to be able to yell Colucci, but Muse is going to hit the horn anyway.
Get one in my Crawford Pod, man, in that little belly area. So, love those things. Love those things. Eat them like popcorn, man. Those are good.
All right, look.
Here's Colucci.
We've got 3 minutes, and I don't want to talk anymore. So just give me what we got.
All right. So we had technical difficulties in our show today. We're going to have Colucci back tomorrow at 11:15. But he did text me in some picks. Normally we put him out on our show on Thursday, but here he is. Going with the Devils, man. Plus 125 at DraftKings, roughly. So a little dog there. And then late night, going against the local team, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Boston Bruins in town tonight. He likes them on the run line, minus 1.5, plus 180. Run line, puck line, I should say. Boston minus 1.5, plus 180, and New Jersey plus 125. So 2 picks from the Colucci man. The college basketball tonight. I'm going to go to down to Coleman Arena on Perret Street. Florida Atlantic coming into town to play Tulane. Florida Atlantic's kind of picking their spots when they want to play really well. Man, they played that game in Vegas against Arizona. Arizona's as talented as anybody. And they came from double digits down to win. But they've kind of been coasting a little bit. I mean, there's still going to be something to be reckoned with when they get to March. But it's a little sleepy little game. Taking Tulane plus 7 at home. And then late tonight in Salt Lake City, Utah and UCLA. UCLA, you know, Ken Palmer power ratings are used by a lot of college basketball handicappers and even some some sportsbook managers on setting odds. They do have a little bit of a historical bias as well. UCLA, a brand name. The NET is, their Ken Palm is like 95. Their NET is like 157. This Utah team this UCLA team is really far below what they normally are. I think it's a light line at home, minus the 8. If it's 8.5, 5 to 8. Utah is much better at home, tough place to win, and UCLA really, really down this year. So going with Tulane, and then my favorite pick is Utah tonight.
Hey, what's the what's
1 minute
the
remaining.
line, Jimmy, wherever we don't buy the half a point?
8 points or less, either way, if it's on the half.
Okay, all right.
Just buy it to the hole.
So Colucci's got 2 picks. The Devils on the money line, Boston on the puck line, and then Jimmy's got 2 college basketball picks for us tonight with Tulane plus the 7 and Utah at home laying the 8. Where are you tomorrow, Otter?
We're at Rufino's,
heck
man.
yeah.
Come on, clear that damn throat, man.
Friday,
I know that Nick
bro.
Saban got you sideways, but look, it's going to be all right.
Hey, man, my Gramps, listen, my Gramps, who's 91, who you met, is going to be at Rufino's tomorrow for lunch with my godparents as well, so make sure you tell them hello.
Absolutely. I will treat them fine. I can't speak for Hanny, but I'm going to treat them like royalty over at Rufino's tomorrow. You betcha.
All right, Otter, y'all have a great show. Thanks, man.
All right, man. See ya.
All right, that's going to do it for us here. To Muse and Paulie back in studio, Bo Wegman, our engineer on site, thank you so much for the hard work as always. From Rouse's, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow at 3.
AFR.
As we get on down the road, let me remind you about Pure Restoration, pure-restoration.com. Kill mold, remove odor. I say it that simply. If you have mold, get rid of it. Don't cut sheetrock. You don't need to pull up carpet or get rid of furniture. At Pure Restoration, they'll kill mold and remove odor and do it in a more cost-effective, efficient way than any other remediation company. And I really want to stress what I'm about to say. Patented non-toxic dry fog. Patented. Nobody else can do this. This is exclusive, patented technology. They'll come in, they'll spray that fog, they'll close the doors, they'll let the fog dwell, it'll kill everything, even the spores. As soon as the fog dissipates, you can go back in free and clear. It's Pure Restoration. Online at pure-restoration.com. Online, pure-restoration.com.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 Black Widow trucks, $20,000 off new Ram 1500 trucks, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love.